If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Kath Bequee. I'm a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of three. Inside my online program, FitNest Mama, I help women feel confident and strong inside out as they navigate pregnancy, birth, and postnatal recovery. Each week, I bring you 2 episodes to support you on your motherhood journey, whether it's real and raw birth stories from fellow mums, expert interviews with trusted health professionals, or bite-sized Q&As where I answer your most common questions. It is possible to feel amazing in your body during this stage of life, and I want that for you. Come and say hi on Instagram at kathbequee.physio, and let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. Today I'm chatting with Kristen, and Kristen shares her birth story. Little Kira is only 3 weeks old at the time of the recording, and because the recount of this story, it is raw and it's quite emotional, and I have thus, if you wait until the end, I then jump on a call with Kristen 3 months later. So her bubs is now nearly 4 months old, for a quick update in how she's going physically and emotionally. Because as I described in this podcast, her pregnancy journey included gestational diabetes, and her birth story included induction, the use of the TENS and gas, use of epidural. It results in an episiotomy and forceps, and also a vaginal internal tear, which requires emergency surgery. She then had a beautiful birth of a 3-week-old, now 3-week-old, but a little baby girl, Kira. And Kristen talks us through her breastfeeding journey, which was a real challenge in those first few weeks. And she discusses how she supplemented with formula too in those early few weeks. But because the first part of this story is so raw and emotional, I just felt like I needed to close the loop and touch base with her 3-4 months down the track, because I've never before done a birth story this early on. So wait until the end and we can close the loop and see what the benefit of time, postpartum support, and postpartum recovery has on how we are feeling both emotionally and physically. Kristen, thank you so much for joining me on the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. Congratulations on the very recent birth of your little baby girl, Kira, only 3 weeks old.
Yes.
I can't believe you've managed to find the time to sit down with me. I feel honoured.
Yeah, it's very good timing. Luckily, my husband's on maternity leave as well at the moment, so he's able to watch her for a bit.
Oh, perfect timing. And it's all fresh in your mind. So it's really, it's an amazing time to chat. So thank you. As I was just saying off air, you are a beautiful member inside FitNest Mama, and I put the call out a couple of weeks ago for members to share their story, and you put your hand up. At what stage did you join FitNest Mama?
So I joined in my last trimester. I was about a month off being due. It was about 4 weeks off, and I wasn't really doing much with my fitness, so I was like, I want to try and reboot that a little bit before.
Yeah. And is that why you joined, for your fitness, or was it more for the birth prep side?
That and the birth prep, definitely the birth prep, because I was getting a bit nervous being my first and I wasn't sure what to expect, so I wanted to be prepared.
Interesting. And what did you dive into in the program? Did you do more of the workouts, or did you do like the perinatal massage and the preparing for birth stuff?
I did mainly just the preparing for birth stuff. So some of the preparing for birth exercises, as well as just the preparing for birth videos as well. So just being aware of what different tears to expect as well.
Yeah. And how did you find it?
I found it very, very informational. It really helped just put my mind at ease, especially for the birth process, because, yeah, I didn't know what to expect, but it just made it more aware of how often women do tear and just what tears to expect as well. Just put my mind a bit more at ease, because obviously the recovery as well, just knowing that it isn't a horrible recovery. It just takes time.
Yeah, amazing. And have you managed to start any of the recovery? I don't like to call them workouts because they're not workouts at 3 weeks postpartum, but have you managed to do any of the recovery stuff yet?
I had a bit of a look last night actually, because I was like, oh, I haven't done anything and it's like been nearly 3 weeks. So I want to start getting moving again, because I feel like most of my life at the moment has been either feeding my baby or just sitting on the couch, because doing too much just hurts a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you get so stiff and sore, don't you?
Yes, you definitely
Yeah.
do. So, yeah.
Okay, let's rewind. So let's rewind to the start of pregnancy. Was this a planned pregnancy?
So we didn't plan it as such as in trying, but we were hoping to just fall pregnant. So we got married in September last year, and I got my birth control out just before we got married. So it was more like a let's just see what happens, but we weren't going to start trying for 6 months. So it just kind of hit us 2 months later. It just happened quicker than what we expected. So we're just like, oh, okay, this is happening.
So at the time of recording, you've been married for 11 months and you've got a 3 week old baby.
Yes.
You've had a lot happen in the last year.
Exactly. Yep. It's been a busy one for us.
Absolutely. So how did you feel when you found out you're pregnant? What was going on?
I was a bit shocked at first because like the my periods hadn't regulated yet since the birth control got removed. So we were just not expecting it, because we weren't expecting them to be on time anyway. But then once it did happen, um, I didn't feel like I was like I didn't realize. I just thought, oh yeah, no, I'm just getting my period. I just feel sick because I'm getting my period. But I felt sick for a couple of days, which is not common. And then eventually we were going to our friend's house for a bit of a party that night, and my husband was just like, you need to pee on a stick because you're late. You're not coping. He's like, we need to know before you go here and really enjoy yourself. So it was a very faint result. Like the second line was very, very faint, but it was there. And I think it was just a shock because I was just like, is this positive? And then he just looked at it and goes, I don't know. Like we didn't do the whole like jumping for joy kind of thing, because we were just still kind of like, I don't know if this is positive or not. But 4 tests later, I had the same result. So I was like, I think we need to go to the doctors.
How was it at the party thinking, oh my God, I might be pregnant? And just, yeah, how was that?
Yeah, it was weird because our friends had just had a baby probably 3 months prior to that. So we were sitting there talking about babies, and then she was like, oh, when you have your kids, like when you guys start having your kids, and the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, well, I could be pregnant right now and I can't tell you because I still don't know. Yeah, but it wasn't too bad. They're used to me not drinking anyway, or not drinking a lot. So I virtually was just like, hey, I'm Dezo tonight. So
So you find out you're pregnant pretty early on. You've just recently married. How is that first half of pregnancy?
it wasn't actually too bad. I think the worst I went through was just being tired all the time. I was just so exhausted, and like I'm used to being tired. I'm used to be going to work and still being tired sometimes, but it was like a whole new level, to the point of where I was sitting at my desk at work and I just wanted to have a nap in the middle of the day. It was just very exhausting, which I'd been told by friends that pregnancy tired was a whole another thing. And that's when I was like, I believe them. Like it was very intense. But besides that, I was fine. I didn't have morning sickness or anything like that, so it was pretty straightforward. I think the only time I got sick was when I tried to eat Vietnamese while I was pregnant, and apparently we didn't like Vietnamese. So
Oh, that's a shame.
yes, so I haven't been brave enough to go back to Vietnamese yet, but
Okay, yeah.
I'm sure I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, what sort of Vietnamese didn't you like?
I think it was like a salad. I think it was the sauce, and that went on one of their salads. I can't even remember. It was that long ago now, but
It's so funny how it can be so specific, can't it?
yeah, yeah, because everything else I was fine eating, but as soon as I tried to eat that, I was like, nah, it's not happening.
Okay, so you've passed the halfway mark of your pregnancy. You're approaching the third trimester. Does anything start to change in terms of how you're approaching pregnancy and the upcoming birth?
I think approaching the third trimester did start making me a bit more nervous for the birth, because I wasn't sure what to expect. And I kept thinking in my head, I was like, how do I know if I've gone into labor? Because I was not sure if I would even know. And I just remember just getting uncomfortable. It just started getting really uncomfortable, trying to do my day-to-day job. I was just zoning out. I was very ready to go on maternity leave. In my head, I was just not focused anymore, but I was definitely really uncomfortable. So I'd be sitting at my desk at work, and all of a sudden I'd feel all this pressure and everything right in my ribs, and someone would start kicking me there, and it was just more intense. I think just the kicks were stronger, the movements were stronger. So she was rolling around a bit. So it just started becoming really uncomfortable and just progressively getting worse in the last trimester.
And was it painful or uncomfortable?
Just uncomfortable. Couldn't get into a position where it felt like I could actually move myself. Started getting indigestion at like 2 a.m. every single night, no matter what time I ate dinner, no matter what I ate, I'd still get indigestion. It was just really uncomfortable. And then she started engaging in my pelvis, and that was just a whole nother thing. Every time I tried to stand up and walk around, I was like, yeah, no, this is not comfortable at all.
What did it feel like?
It just felt like a lot of pressure, and then you'd try to move one way and I'd get pain down one leg. So it was almost like we hit a nerve, and I'd have to change how I was walking and or sit down, basically.
And how many weeks pregnant were you here?
I think it was about 34 weeks that she started trying to engage. Yeah.
And did you feel that real heaviness in your pelvis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember I was somewhere with my husband, and I was just all of a sudden I was like gripping, going, oh, and he's like, what's wrong? Are you going to labor? And I was like, no. It's just the baby's just engaging in my pelvis. But it was a bit of an intense feeling of just pressure, just right there.
Did it ease when you lay down?
Yeah, so when I lay down, I didn't feel it. Even if I sat down sometimes, I wouldn't even notice that she was engaged. It was more so when I stood up and went to walk somewhere, especially after sitting down for a bit of time. If I stood up after sitting down for a bit of time, it was almost like she moved to a position to be comfortable, but it wasn't comfortable when I tried to stand up.
Yeah, right. And I'm just here, probably putting my physio hat on here. Did you try any compression wear to help those symptoms?
No, I didn't.
That would have been interesting, because there are some compression wear garments for pregnancy that really do help support that, I guess, that perineal area, and almost like provide that gusset, that support. Anyway, too late to discuss that. But for those listening, that heaviness is a very common symptom, and there's so much weight on all the pelvic organs at that stage, and that's the like, if you'd come to see me then in the clinic, I would have definitely got you doing lots of bursts of horizontal rest, even 5-10 minutes lying on your side, morning, noon and night. I would have perhaps recommended trialing some support wear, and we would have also done some exercises and positions which take the pelvis off gravity, off load. So, avoid the standing exercises. Let's get into like side lying and 4-point kneeling to help reduce some of that pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did that pressure subside at all as the pregnancy progressed? Or was that for the whole last 6 weeks?
It wasn't all the time. It was just basically, I think a couple of days a week that I would feel the pressure, and she'd moved to a position that was just really uncomfortable for me. And it was more started getting increased as I got towards the end of the pregnancy, because I was doing a lot less. So I was at home for the last 2 weeks just going, well, hey, I can't do as much as what I would like to be doing, because every time I tried to do something, I was just exhausted. So, that's when I noticed it more so, because every time I went to stand up, it was almost like she was in a certain position that was comfortable when I was laying down or sitting down. But then as soon as I stood up, it just wasn't as comfortable.
Oh, that's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
So at what stage do you start to think, okay, birth's coming up, maybe we need to do, like, did you start to consider, right, what are we going to do to prepare for birth?
Yeah, so probably about 4 weeks before, I started thinking, hey, I need to do something, because this is going to happen soon and I'm not prepared. And I was just worried that, hey, I might ruin my pelvic floor because I haven't been doing enough pelvic floor exercises, or as often as I probably should be. And I hadn't really done much of a workout at all. So I was like, yeah, this is probably going to be a painful birth if I don't start trying to do something. So that's when I was like, no, I really need to get on board with this fitness. Like, I'd already signed up probably prior to that, but I just hadn't really opened up the app and really done anything with it. So I was like, nope, I really need to do something with this.
Yeah. And at that stage, walking was difficult for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So I couldn't do too much walking. It was very reduced. So if I did about 5 minutes of walking, and then after that, it just got hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So apart from, the FitNest Mama app, was there any other ways that you prepared for birth?
Not really. Not really. Yeah. So the hospital, I didn't really do much with them. It was more just, using the FitNest Mama.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so talk us through the last few weeks when birth's becoming more imminent, like what started to happen?
So basically, I started getting Braxton Hicks. That definitely did happen. And a few weeks out, I actually thought I was going into labor. I had one night where I just did not sleep at all because the Braxton hits were just that bad, that I actually thought that I was going into early labor. But checking all the contractions and how far apart they were, there was basically, it wasn't a regular kind of thing. So I knew then, I was like, well, it's definitely not labor. It was just really uncomfortable. So all night I'd get these uncomfortable bursts here and there. So I didn't end up sleeping for an entire night, which was fun. But then the next day, it was as if that didn't even happen. So it was back to normal, feeling the same way of just being pregnant. And just doing our regular visits. So we went through a private obstetrician. So just doing our regular visits with him, which were weekly, and having the monitor on there. There was a few during the day was getting a bit less movement, I noticed. So I wasn't sure if that was because I might have been doing more during the day instead of just sitting around at work doing nothing as such, but once I started maternity leave, I was doing a bit more during the day. So wasn't sure if it was related to that or what was going on, but the doctor just got, the OB, he got quite concerned and wanted to monitor that a bit more, but we were doing our weekly monitoring anyway. And then I think it was about 3 days out from when he decided to induce me, that we went into the hospital and did some monitoring, and they said everything was fine, but he was still just a bit worried about that as well. I was also gestational diabetes in my pregnancy, so by a very small smidge. So I think I was only 0.1 over what you needed to be to not be gestational diabetes. So he was also worried about that because he wanted to monitor that and just make sure that he could monitor the birth as well. So
with the gestational diabetes, did you do anything different once you found out you had gestational diabetes?
I think I just started walking a bit more. So basically, prior to that, I was already eating really healthy, well-balanced meals. So when they were like, yep, you're gestational, the obstetrician immediately referred me straight through to a diabetes counsellor just so that we could have a conversation and just make sure. She got me to start monitoring my levels 2 hours after every meal. And basically the only thing I changed was I started doing a middle of the day walk. So we were already trying to walk once a day in the afternoon anyway. So just once I'd have my lunch, I'd go for a walk because I'd still had time in my lunch break. So that was the only thing I really changed as opposed to anything else, because I was already eating the right stuff and they were able to diet control it anyway, which was good. So
yeah. And did you have to monitor your levels during the course of the pregnancy?
So basically from as soon as I got diagnosed, they had me with a glucose monitor where I had to prick myself 4 times a day, basically after every main meal. Yep. So it was 2 hours after every main meal. So breakfast, lunch, dinner. And in the morning, I had to do my fasting levels before I ate. So yeah. So that was exciting and fun. And by the end of it, I was like, I can't wait to not be gestational anymore and have this baby so that I don't have to prick myself again. I think that was the worst part of the whole thing.
Yeah, okay. So at what stage did your OB what stage did he start to discuss the induction? How many weeks were you?
I was 35 weeks, I reckon, and he turned around and said, we are considering of just doing an induction. He's like, I'm not sure what day we'll do it, but we're going to do an induction because basically because I was gestational diabetic straight away, he didn't want me to go to full term because that's when the risks increased. So he wanted to make sure that, and then there was also a lot of fluid around the baby. So he was a bit worried about that and wanted to control that a bit more.
And when he was saying the risks increased, he was referring to bigger baby and therefore increased risk of like pelvic floor trauma to you. Is that what he was referring to? Or was it more for risk for baby?
So it was a bit of everything. He was more concerned, like he was worried about the baby, but also about me as well, and said it just increases the risk of having to go in for a cesarean. So, and me wanting to have a natural birth, he's like, look, we'll try and do what we can.
Yeah. I'm about to, because we've got, and this is for the listeners, I'll link in the show notes, we've got a great episode with an obstetrician all about gestational diabetes, and we've also got one with a dietitian, so I'll link those 2 in the show notes. The one with the obstetrician, it's a few years old, so I'm actually just having conversations as we speak to update that, because I know, as you said, Kristen, the parameters for when the cutoff for gestational diabetes has changed. It's fluctuated a little bit over the last few years, so it is time to get an updated episode. So if you're listening to this in the future, just check to see if there has been a recent gestational diabetes episode with the doctor. So you're about 35 weeks, starting to discuss induction. How did you feel about that?
In one breath, I was actually a little bit relieved because I was already nervous about the whole process and going, oh, if I start labor at home, how do I know when it's the right time to go to the hospital? Are we going to make it on time? And then as soon as he's like, I'm going to induce you, I was like, oh, well, we'll be at the hospital the whole time anyway. So it just gave me a bit more confidence, I think, especially not knowing. And then with everything that he was saying about the risks of the fluid around the baby as well, it just made me a bit less nervous about the whole process because I was like, oh, well, I'll be there with all the care and all the help that I need anyway. So, yeah, it made me feel a bit more confident. It was just the not knowing. And then there was still a chance that if the baby decided to come early, that I could go into labor prior to that anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. You felt sort of happy about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was also nervous as well because like my sister-in-law got induced and she was just like, it's not fun. So I wasn't sure what to expect.
I will link a positive induction story as well. So I will have to try to remember to link those three because there are lots of positive induction stories. But you're right. There's a lot of that's when hearing from other people can just not be that helpful. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely. Because I believe I had a whole different experience to what she would have went through when she said it was very uncomfortable and everything. I didn't think it was that bad when I actually got there. So,
Yeah. And that's why I do have a love-hate relationship with birth stories because I think they can be really powerful to help support preparation for birth. And I think they can be really powerful to help support your recovery and help you realise, you know, you're not alone in whatever recovery process you're having. But I do think when you're pregnant, especially for the first time, you do need to be mindful of what type of episodes you're consuming. And that's why I try to put as much information as possible in the introduction so that people can pick and choose what birth story they want to listen to and when. Yeah. Did you listen to birth stories out of interest, Kristen?
yes, yeah. So I love my podcast. So I was listening to definitely all different kinds of birth stories just to get an idea. Just interesting to see how some people's actual births went. But some people had a lot of good positive ones, and then there was the ones that didn't quite go to plan as well. So it just makes you think, well, hey, it does happen. So just be prepared either way.
Yeah, that's true actually. And even those that don't go according to plan, like at the end of the road, there's a lot of recovery ahead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So no matter what happens at the end of birth, that's you're now at your new baseline and you can recover, whether or not that's emotionally, physically, like all the different aspects. Anyway, we're going off topic. Kristen, talk me through. Doctor is talking about induction. At what stage was it go time?
So we got told that basically 2 days before we were due was going to be the day. So we went to our weekly appointment the week before, and our doctor's just like, look, I'm going to get you to go into the hospital tomorrow for monitoring because our appointment was a Thursday. So he's like, I'm going to get you to go into the hospital tomorrow for monitoring because you're mentioned that you're not getting as much movement during the day. So I just want to monitor that and make sure that is definitely still going okay. And then he said, then we'll get you in on the Monday for an induction. So it was basically, we were in one appointment with the doctor saying, hey, like we've talked about induction, but we hadn't settled on a day, to basically walking into that appointment and being told the baby's going to be basically coming on Monday. So we were already organized, like we had our car seat early, we had our bags packed early. So we were very, very organized, ready to go just in case. So it was just the start day. So we had to get up quite early on the day to go into the hospital because they obviously wanted to do monitoring before they start the induction process. But yeah, basically it was a matter of days from having the final appointment with him to being like, hey, yep, you're getting induced. So
Okay, talk me through that Monday morning.
So yeah, we got up, we had something very small to eat, and then we headed into the hospital. Once we got in there, we had one midwife who put us straight into the birthing suite and put us straight onto monitoring. And they were just monitoring the heart rate, which her heart rate was good, really, really good. And then we were tracking the movements as well. And then the doctor came in at about 10 o'clock. So we were there at 7. He came in at about 10 and he put the gel on. So to start the cervix getting ready. And then the midwives were like, okay, well, we're going to send you back to the ward. So we're going to put you into the maternity ward rather than have you in the birthing suite because it's a bit more comfortable for you. So they moved us back to the maternity ward. And I think it was everything felt like it went really, really quick, but it would have been a couple of hours. And I was laying there and I'm like, I'm starting to feel like period cramps just here and there. And then the midwife came in and checked on us and said, how are you going? And I was like, I'm starting to feel very mild period cramps. Not sure what's going on. And she goes, well, that's fine. The doctor wants you to come back in anyway to the birthing suite. He's going to come in and have a check and see if he needs to put more gel on because they didn't believe it was going to work the first time. So I think it was about 2:30 in the afternoon by then that the doctor came back in. He had a look and he's turned to me and gone, you're 2 centimeters dilated. You've already started labor. So he goes, we're not putting any more gel on. We're just going to break your waters. And that was another experience again. So basically it felt like getting a pap smear. And then it was just the warm liquid coming through. So it was uncomfortable, but it wasn't horrible to happen. And then basically as soon as he broke my waters, the contractions were just intense. It just started straight away, basically. There wasn't much time between him breaking the waters and labor really intensifying. And straight away, after he broke my waters, he asked me what my pain relief that I wanted to, if I wanted to start any pain relief now, what my pain relief options or preferences were. And I just said to him, I'm not good with pain. We're going straight down the epidural run. So they organised that. But by the time someone actually came in to put in the epidural, I was already 7 centimeters dilated. So I'd done most of the labour myself by that point. I did have a TENS machine, which was amazing. So being able to use that for the birth, that did help with all the labour. And then eventually, I think it was probably a couple of hours in that I turned around and said, I want the gas as well, because the TENS machine just wasn't cutting it anymore. So the pain was just getting worse.
Okay, so the anaesthetist came in for the epidural, but then went again? Is that they didn't end up giving you the epidural?
No, he came in and gave me the epidural. And then once that was in, the doctor came back in and did a check and was like, yep, you're 7 centimeters. So you've done most of this yourself. But now you've got the epidural as well. And from that point, I felt nothing.
Oh, okay. So the TENS was before the epidural?
Yeah, the TENS was first.
Okay, I thought you were saying you used the TENS after.
No, I had the TENS at the start, but then once the epidural went in, they're just like, you can't have the TENS machine anymore. You can just have the gas. And once the epidural went in, I didn't need the gas. I didn't need anything. So the epidural definitely worked. And then I feel like it felt like maybe 10 minutes later, but it was probably an hour or so later. The doctor came in, took one look and goes, yeah, you're 10 centimeters plus. So you need to start pushing on your contractions. And at that point,
pause you. Can I pause you? Because you've skipped over what I feel like is some potentially really juicy information that's valuable for pregnant women, because it seems like you progressed through that first sort of stage of labour quite quickly. But how were you feeling when you were needing the TENS and the gas? Like, what was going on then?
So basically, I felt like I had the worst period cramps of my life. That's the only way I can really explain how it felt for every single contraction. And I felt, so I know they say like they're so many minutes apart or etc. I felt like they were coming every 2 seconds. So, but I think that was just because they were so intense, and time just went so quickly in my brain. Everything just happened so fast. But then when we looked at the clock later on, I was like, oh, well, that was going on for a couple of hours, but it felt like it was only going on for 10 minutes or so.
And how are you feeling during that stage? Like you mentioned before, you were nervous going into birth. Like, how are you feeling when you're in the thick of it?
Very overwhelmed. So I actually think at one point I started crying. I broke down in tears going, this is just intense. This is too much. And that's when I asked for the gas, was at that point. But I felt very supported as well because the midwives were there. They kept checking in. They were making sure we were doing okay. My husband was great. He was basically holding my hand through the whole thing. So it just made it a lot more comfortable, I guess. But I'd moved from sitting on the bed to sitting on an exercise ball because I was like, no, I'm not doing this. This is too much. The ball was amazing. I tried to move positions again, even just leaning over the bed. That was not comfortable at all. I had to go back to the ball. So the exercise ball was definitely the best for basically how I was feeling. It was the best for relieving the pain off my pelvis, as well as just making it a bit more bearable. And the TENS machine was great. Like it had a boost button on our TENS machine. So we were just pressing the boost button. Every time a contraction started, it would just boost through the whole contraction. And then once the contraction was over, I'd turn the boost off. And it just helped, I guess, distract me a bit more from the pain as well. But yeah, it did get to a point where I was ready. Like I was in tears nearly. And I was like, nah, give me the gas. I can't do this anymore.
And you mentioned you were feeling overwhelmed. Now that you've got hindsight on your side, would you do anything different to help with that whole process or how you're feeling?
I'm not sure. I didn't really think. I haven't really thought about that as such. It was basically I felt prepared. So having the TENS machine put on as soon as they broke my waters. So before I started feeling contractions, the TENS machine was on, which was good. So then as soon as I was feeling the contractions, I was able to start utilizing the TENS machines to its ability, which I think really did help. So just being prepared, just after watching all the videos in FitNest Mama on how to prepare for birth and knowing when you can use your TENS machine and understanding how they work a bit better, that just really helped as well.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. Now I cut you off before. You just mentioned when the epidural first went in.
Yes. So once it went in, I think I mildly felt the next contraction and then I felt nothing, absolutely nothing. So they turned to me and said, when they said I was 10 centimeters plus, they're like, you're going to have to start pushing on your contractions. And my first reaction was, great. Can you guys actually tell me when I'm having those? Because I have no idea. So it went from being like intense pain every time to absolutely nothing. So then when I did start pushing, because they're just like, well, we're going to start pushing on every contraction, they would tell me I'd start pushing. They'd tell me when I had to stop because the contraction was done as well. And then as the baby started moving further down the birth canal, that's when I started feeling the contractions coming on because I could feel it in my pelvis. I could feel something. It wasn't pain or anything. I could just feel that, hey, yep, that's a contraction. I have to push. Like it was just the urge to push, I think, was just coming in that I was starting to feel. But that's all I felt the whole time with the epidural, which that was amazing because I was not enjoying it prior to that. So the epidural definitely did work for me, which was good. Yeah.
So you're feeling the urge to push and you're pushing when they're telling you to and when you're getting that urge to push?
Yes. Yep. So we did that and they told me that I had an hour and a half of this left to go. They said, you're going to be pushing for the next hour and a half. It would have been probably 15 minutes in, after they'd told me that I still had an hour and a half left, that they went and grabbed the doctor and brought the doctor in, because every time I was pushing, it got to a point of the baby wasn't moving when I was pushing. So there was no progress in the birth canal. The baby was just staying in the same spot. So that's when they went and got the doctor, and he came in and he said, look, these are our options, but I think we're going to have to do an assisted birth. So the baby's not moving at all, and we can't leave her just in the birth canal not moving. We need her moving. So that's when he decided he was going to use the forceps. So that was the next step. So basically going from pushing to, hey, yep, you can't push now for a little while because we've got to get prepared to get these forceps ready. So that's when he did I got an episiotomy, just so that he could be able to get in there with the forceps. And he went in, and once he attached to the baby's head, it was, let's go, you've got to start pushing again. So it was back to pushing on the contractions with him assisting. And I think it was probably about 10, 15 minutes later that her head was out and he had the rest of her out. And it all happened so fast from that point. I think from him saying, I'm going to do an assisted birth, to the baby then being placed on my chest. So then having my daughter placed on my chest was just a very quick turnaround time for me. But I think it was really about 15 minutes or so until that actually happened. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a very quick process.
Yes. Very fast.
Did you know you're having a girl?
Yes, we found out when we did our NIPS test. So
Okay.
yeah, we were prepared for what we were having. There was a lot of hair, so I straight away had heard stories about indigestion or heartburn being linked to hair, and I was like, yep, that makes sense.
What were you saying? You didn't realise...
Now I've lost my train of thought.
You didn't realise that he was the obstetrician?
I didn't even realise the obstetrician had done the cut until after, basically, I was sitting there holding my little girl and looking down, and I could see him stitching back up.
Yeah,
so
right.
straight away I was like, oh, did I tear? And he goes, no, I had to cut you to use the forceps. So yeah.
And you mentioned that you also had an internal tear?
Yes, so not sure exactly what caused the internal tear, but basically, so from the point that I gave birth, they were monitoring how much blood loss I was having, which I believe is very standard that they do that anyway. But they were getting very worried because they were feeling my stomach, the midwives were, and they were saying, yeah, you're definitely like cramping back up, like you should be, but you're still bleeding a lot more than what you should be as well. And I started to feel really dizzy, so they gave me some food to try and boost up my sugar levels, because they thought it was just from the blood loss that I was just feeling fainty. But they kept monitoring and weighing all the everything that was underneath that was soaking up the blood, just to make sure how much blood loss it was. I think I lost 500 mils. And by the third phone call to my doctor, because the first phone call, the doctor was just like, look, just put some drugs in. So they started just trying to pump through some drugs to try and cramp up the bleeding and stop it happening. There was some blood clots as well, so they tried removing those on the second go. And then on the third go, the doctor came in and goes, nah, we need to have another look. So he opened me back up a little bit, had a bit of a look, and clamped where he found the tear. So that's when he found the tear. So he's not entirely sure what caused it. Could have been the baby's shoulders. It could have been from the forceps as well. It was just a matter of things. And he just said, nah, we're going to have to go to surgery because I don't want to do this repair in the birthing suite. It's so much easier in surgery. So yeah, that's when they started prepping me for theatre. So.
And was that still with you were conscious? You had the epidural already?
They'd basically removed the epidural probably half an hour before that, before him coming in. So he was like, I'm surprised that you weren't in a lot of pain by now. because that's a painful tear. But we were just guessing that the epidural hadn't worn off, but the epidural had been taken out. And once they realized that, they went, oh, okay, we're going to have to get the anaesthetist back in to do, to help with the surgery. So, and when I went in for the surgery, he's like, these are your options. You can do a spinal tap, which is pretty much the same as an epidural, but it's just without the epidural staying in. He said, or we can put you to sleep, but that's when the risk increases because you've eaten already as well. So I just went for the spinal tap. I was like, look, just do the spinal tap. I don't need to go to sleep. So yeah, the spinal tap was also weird because I could feel my legs at that point. The feeling of my legs had just come back. So I could feel my legs through the whole surgery, but I couldn't feel anything else that happened. So
okay. How long did that take? How was that process of waiting and knowing that your bub's cure is in a different room?
So I had her at about a minute to 8. So she was born at 7:59. And then they took me in at about, I think it was about 2 a.m. They made the call that they were taking me in for surgery. So my poor husband was stuck doing everything from that point anyway. And he at one point went back to the ward to take some of our stuff back to the ward from the birthing suite, and he'd come back and I wasn't there. And they're like, yeah, we've taken her to surgery. Here's your baby as such. So
did he know that surgery was on the cards?
He knew it was on the cards. It just kind of rolled around quicker than what we thought, because we were told, oh, yeah, it's going to be like an hour because we're just waiting for everyone to come in who's on call to come in and do the surgery. But everyone must have come in quicker than they expected, because next minute they're just like, yep, it's happening now. So all I know is I was getting wheeled up to theatre.
Okay, so you'd been feeling pretty overwhelmed during the birth. They popped Kira on your chest for a few hours, like afterwards?
Yeah, so as soon as she popped out, she came straight onto my chest. And I got to hold her for quite some time. And then they were like, yep, okay, now we need her to latch. So you need to start breastfeeding. And at this point, I was still just, what's happened? I've just had a baby. There's a baby here now. So, but yeah, as soon as they popped her on the chest, it was a matter of minutes. She started crying and talking, or, little cougar as such sense. And then that's when she started looking for a feed as well. So she started the whole motion of, hey, where's my food? I know I've just popped out, but I'm hungry now.
And how was that process?
So latching was hard. So I had a few midwives trying to help me. It was a bit of a hard process trying to get her to latch on. She wasn't latching properly, and my milk definitely hadn't come in, which it doesn't come in that early anyway. So it was just a process of trying to get her on, but then knowing if she was getting anything as well. So at one point, one of the midwives was actually standing there trying to express from me, because they needed more colostrum for her whilst I was going to be in surgery as well. So they needed to make sure that they'd have enough to feed her. But yeah, she basically wasn't latching. At some point, she didn't even want to latch. She just wanted to lay there on my chest and just enjoy being in the world, I guess, or as such. But yeah, eventually she did latch herself, but it was a bit of a process trying to get the correct latching. It was learning for both of us, because I had no idea what I was doing either. So
yeah. And how were you feeling emotionally at this time, knowing that you might have to go in for surgery? You just had a whirlwind birth.
Surprisingly, I wasn't that worried as such. We had a really good obstetrician, so I was confident that he knew what he was doing and that it was going to fix all the issues that the midwives were worried about. So my main concern was just, hey, yeah, well, we need to get this fixed. So let's go to theatre, let's get this done. Then I can get back to my baby and my husband so that they're not on, that was probably the biggest thing, was just being able to get it sorted so I could get back to them and be there and not feel like I wasn't there, because half of me was not feeling great and was passing out here and there. So I guess it was a bit of a relief to know that I was going in for surgery to fix how I was feeling, because I wasn't feeling great before that.
Yeah, because of the blood loss.
Because of the blood loss, yeah.
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 Okay, so recovery. Talk me through those next few days and I guess the last 3 weeks. How's recovery been physically? Let's start with physically.
Physically, it's been a bit of a process. It still does hurt at the moment, especially if I'm sitting. So, for example, it's something uncomfortable. So if I sit in the car for too long, it can hurt, especially on where my stitches are. So mainly just from the episiotomy and not so much from the internal tear. I haven't felt anything from the internal tear.
Yeah.
I'm still on pain relief now, which isn't too bad. It's just some Panadol a couple of times a day. But the initial process, so after having the spinal tap, I couldn't move for 12 hours. I wasn't allowed to move for 12 hours. So I had a catheter in. I felt a little bit useless. My husband had to grab the baby every time I had to feed. He had to grab her for me and pop her on or hand her to me because I couldn't move for 12 hours. And then I just remember the first time that I got up and walked to the bathroom and I was just so swollen. It was just such a process. And bowel movements, they were hard to control. So basically anything was hard to control. That took a couple of days to get back into check, was just being able to control any sort of bowel movements and be able to basically hold it in as such. That took a couple of days, which I had a physio come and visit me while I was in the hospital as well, which was great. She came in and basically said, look, this is going to take a little while. We recommend you start your pelvic floor exercises from tomorrow. So I think that was about day 3 that they had me starting pelvic floor exercises where I could, but she said you might only get one lift in per day for the first couple of days, because you're still going to be really sore and tender and it's going to hurt trying to do it. So that was the biggest adjustment. I remember sitting in the shower at one point and basically I cried because it just hurt so much, and we had trouble. Our baby wasn't putting on any weight as well. So basically I felt like I was doing something wrong. So yeah, I got quite upset in the shower. And yeah, so it was very intense because I was just concerned that I was doing something wrong. But at the same time, I was in so much pain that it didn't help my state of mind as well. So that took a couple of days of the pain to subside. And once the swelling went down, that's when I felt like it was less painful for me, that I was able to do more and it didn't affect me as much. But my production of milk wasn't great. So that was another process as well, physically, that I couldn't feed my baby enough. And that's where it got quite emotional for me. And we had to start topping her up with formula, and I had to pump as well as try and breastfeed. So it became so much in one hit. I think it was just everything all at once. Yeah.
And were you getting support with a lactation consultant with all the breastfeeding side?
Yeah, so a couple of times the midwives would come in and check on us, and if we mentioned something about her not latching, within 5 minutes there was a lactation consultant in the room coming in, checking. She made me feel a bit more confident, going, hey, yeah, no, your baby's latching properly. She came back in the day before we got discharged and checked in and said, yep, you're still latching properly. But then they'd weighed her that day and said, oh, she's not putting on weight. So that's when the lactation consultant came in that day and said, like, these are your options. We like to start, we can see she's latching. We're confident that you'll probably start getting your milk come in the next couple of days anyway, so if not overnight. So she said, I'm not worried that your baby's going to start putting on weight again. So it was just such a confusing time because it was one breath the midwives are like, hey, we might have to start pumping, we might have to start trying to express something. But then the lactation consultant came in and said, no, we're not going to bother with that because it's a process and it will happen. So it wasn't until the day before we got discharged from the hospital that night at midnight or something, they weighed her and said, no, she's lost a bit more weight, that they went, we want to start expressing. So that's when they came in with a pump for me to start expressing, and then they provided us some formula as well so we could top her off with formula so she was at least getting some sort of weight. Yeah.
And I can see you're a bit upset. Like, it's such a massive few days, isn't it?
Yeah. It was very intense. So between being in pain constantly and then having the thoughts of, hey, I may not be able to feed my baby, it just became a lot in one hit. Yeah, I think. And
were you happy with the formula top-ups, or was this another layer of guilt that you felt? Like, what was going through your mind?
I didn't mind the formula top-ups because it meant that our baby was getting fed. So at the end of the day, it was about her getting fed. I think it was just me feeling a bit flat because I had it in my head that, yep, I'm going to breastfeed. I'm really going to do this. I'm not going to be like some of our friends ended up formula feeding. And in my head, I was like, no, I'm going to give this a crack, even though it hurts, because like my breasts were hurting as well. And I was like, no, I'm definitely going to give this a crack. But it was just a bit much, like emotionally, because being told, hey, yeah, no, your baby's not doing well. And then we were told as well we might have to stay at the hospital another day if the baby had to stay in for anything else because she was a little bit jaundiced as well. So they were a bit worried about that as well. But then they were confident that if she got more food in her that the jaundiceness would go away because she only had jaundice across her forehead. It was only just a little bit yellow across her forehead. So they were a bit worried about that. So I think just emotionally for me, it was, hey, I can't feed my baby. Even now, sometimes we have to top her up with formula because I'm just not making enough milk as well. So it's been a bit of a process of feeding, pumping, which takes an emotional toll because you just finish feeding. Sometimes the feeds go for 40 minutes to an hour. And then on top of that, you're pumping. And then before you know it, you're back to feeding again as well. So it's just been a bit of a process.
Yeah. You're doing an amazing job, Kristen.
Thank you.
It's such early days too.
Yeah.
Now that you're 3 weeks, now that Kira's 3 weeks old, do you feel things are getting a bit easier these last few days, from the last week or so?
Yeah, I felt like she's getting more out of me because definitely she's been settling overnight and not looking for more food after a feed, which is good. She's not feeding as long either, so she's pulling herself off quite early, which is also a good sign. And then when she's coming off, you can see the milk drooling out of her mouth. So we know she's getting something, which is good. So it's making me feel a bit more confident. There's a bits here and there. So when she's cluster feeding overnight, if that happens, that we still have to pull out the formula sometimes, or if there's some pumped milk, we give her that. Mm-hmm. But that's more so if she's just fed and then wants a feed an hour later, and we just know that it's not going to happen. Yeah. So it's just getting into a rhythm of that, a routine of, hey, yep, this is what's working. But overnight feeds have been really, really good because she'll get on, she'll latch, she'll have a bit of both boobs, and then she'll go down, which is great. So it means that she's getting what she needs, which makes me feel a bit better as well.
And who's in your, I guess, support? Have you got anyone in your support network? Obviously your husband's around. Like, who else is there to support you, both professionally and personally?
So I've got a lot of friends that just recently had babies, or their babies are a couple of months, 12 months at least old. So they've been really supportive. One of them actually lives across the road, so she's very, very supportive, and has tried to help out where she can. But just being able to talk to my friends, so being able to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling right now, and just knowing. So I'm also really lucky that I've got 2 amazing sister-in-laws as well, so I can reach out to them at any time. One of them is actually a midwife, so that makes it even easier, because if I'm like stressed about something, going, hey, this hasn't happened for a few days, or she's been spitting up after every feed or something like that, my sister-in-law can go, yep, that's normal, that's totally normal, you're doing the right things. And then when I was feeling very emotional about the whole process of breastfeeding and pumping, and I was like, this is just too much, I don't think I can physically do this, she straight away was like, look, don't worry about pumping if you're not feeling up to it. She goes, just feed and then top up with formula. She said, if that's what you have to do. She said, you can skip the pumping process in the middle. They just want you to pump so that it produces more milk for you as well. So it was just trying to get that into a rhythm, and just knowing what times of the day I could do that. So nighttime feeds, it definitely wasn't happening, because you'd feed and then it'd go to pump and I was just too exhausted. So at that point, that's it. Yeah, because that also helps. So it's just all been a bit of a process.
And do you feel you've got, like, it's great that you've got friends, you know, you can chat to at any stage. Have you got a lactation consultant that you can touch base with if you need that, you know, to, I guess, debrief or discuss with them any concerns?
Yeah, so I was very lucky that the lactation consultant at the hospitals, they've got a really good program, which they even came to see me on the last day, which was a different lactation consultant, but she was one of our midwives on the first night. So she's also a lactation consultant. So she was very helpful, came in on the last day. They've got a whole service there, which they're like, just call us at any time if you need to pop in. We've also got, with the maternal healthcare nurse as well, they run a feeding service once a week, which we can also pop into if we need to. Yeah, so there's lots of support around.
Because it's huge, isn't it? You got all the hormonal changes happening at the same time, and, you know, the sleep deprivation and physical changes and breastfeeding and learning how to care for this little human being. It's a lot.
It is, yeah. Definitely.
And I can't finish this conversation with asking, do you have a pelvic floor physio appointment lined up at about 6 weeks?
Not yet. I have a pelvic floor physio that I'm going to go see. It's just they wanted to see what the obstetrician will do first at the 6-week appointment, and if he'll do a bit of an assessment while I'm there before having to go see the pelvic floor, the physio. So yeah.
Right. Fantastic. Kristen, you're doing an amazing job, and I know that birth didn't go according to plan, but I just want to reassure you, like, as you said, you've got all your support network, but you were at such an early stage of recovery, and I know that, like, and I'm talking about it from a physical perspective because I guess that's my area of specialty, but you've got so much room for improvement, and sure, things are feeling weak at the moment, you know, you didn't have as much control over your bowels, and things have really changed for you, but you're also at the start of your postnatal recovery journey. So you've got this. Take your time. Like, it won't happen quickly. It took 9 months to have your baby, and good 9 to 12 months for recovery, if not longer. Like, but you've got it. You've got this.
That's it. That's it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. To finish off with, for anyone listening today, do you have any final words that you just want to share?
Not really. Just trust your instincts, but also know that you've got the support around you. The hospitals, the doctors, they're all there to support you, and lean on your friends and family as well. Like, don't do it alone, for sure. take on some advice, or at least be honest with them about how you're feeling so they know where they can help you.
Yeah. Kristen, thank you for joining me. Throughout and I say this to anyone, all the members inside FitNest Mama, let me know how you're feeling with the workouts. Let me know if you've got any questions. I can help you to modify any of them, to suit you with where you're at. But definitely get started with the 0 to 6 weeks. Even if you're at 6 weeks before you open up the app, get started with the step ones.
Yeah.
Step 1 exercises. Amazing. Thank you, Kristen, for joining me on the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. I really do appreciate your time today.
No worries at all. Thanks, Kath.
So this next short part of the podcast, it's a sort of, I guess, the finale, but it's 4 months later. So Kira is now 4 months old, and Kristen was really kind enough to agree to join me for a follow-up interview. I didn't feel right leaving the episode as I left it. As I mentioned, I've never before interviewed someone so early postpartum, and everything was so raw, and it was so valuable hearing Kristen's experience. But I really did sort of just want to finish it off with a glimpse into the future. So this is now Kristen sharing where life's at 4 months postpartum, how the breastfeeding journey's progressed, how her postnatal recovery and the physical side of things has progressed. And she's got some great tips at the end for anyone listening who's pregnant, who's potentially about to navigate motherhood and embark on their motherhood journey. So thank you for sticking around this far. If you have, amazing. Let's finish it off. Kristen, thank you so much for joining me back a few months later on the podcast. It's really exciting because when we spoke, little Kira was only 3 weeks old. So it was, as I think I said on the podcast, it was the most early podcast episode I've ever done. And it was a very raw episode. And I was like, you know what? I want to speak to you in a few months' time. And thank you so much for, agreeing to come back, because little Kira is now 4 months old. So Kristen, welcome back. How have the last 3 months been?
Not bad. It's been a bit of a up and down roller coaster. So hubby went back to work. So it became like, oh, I'm just on my own. I've got to learn how to do this all just me. So that was a bit of a challenge, but we got somewhere, which was good. I learned that everything I thought was maternity leave was going to be, it's not. I don't have all the time in the world to start sorting out my house yet, but who knows what's going to happen. That's slowly becoming a bit more manageable, but routine is definitely not something that you get in the first 3 months, that's for sure. So
isn't that funny? Like that whole, the matrescence, the becoming of a mother, like what you just said is so common, because we have this perception right from when we're children, what what our parent motherhood's going to be like, maybe like if, when we're going to have children. And then you're thrown into motherhood and your whole idea of motherhood totally, changes. I know it did for me. And is that what you're describing?
yes, definitely.
And so this idea that, and I feel that doesn't change as your kids get older. Like I've now got kids becoming teenagers, and it's everything I perceive motherhood and raising children and teenagers to be just goes out the window, and dealt with reality. But anyway, back to you. Kristen, you mentioned one of the hardest transitions was the breastfeeding journey. Can you talk us through how that's evolved over the last few months?
Yes. So she's definitely she started off that we had to top her off with formula every single feed, and then I'd have to pump after every feed just because I wasn't making enough for her. Still topping her off with formula, but it's just not as much now. So we're mixing that with the breastfeeding as well, and just some breast milk top ups. It's just still an ongoing process. But she's getting a bit of everything. So that's the main thing. She's growing, she's putting on weight, and that's the biggest thing. She wasn't putting on enough weight, and that's where we had to change routine and put something else in play, and that's what it's become and evolved to.
How did you feel having to introduce the formula? Were you relieved? Were you sad? Like what emotions were you going
It was a
through?
bit of a mixed emotions. Part of me was really frustrated at the start because I tried everything to make it work, and then the formula had to be introduced, which was something I wasn't really planning for to happen. The perception of, hey, I'm going to be able to breastfeed, it's not going to be any issues, that really changed to go, well, hey, yep, I get now some people have issues. So yeah, definitely something that did happen there. But was kind of a relief to go, well, hey, I'll give her some feed and then we can give her the bottle as well, which when my hubby's home, he'll do the bottle part, which gives me a bit more time to go, hey, well, I'm going to go do this and this while you do that. And it makes me feel like I can actually move. Whereas before we introduced the formula, I was just constantly feeding. So I just felt like I never really got a chance to myself because she was constantly on, off, because she was just hungry. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like it's been an amazing journey. Like that's really positive then that you're able to, have moments for yourself.
Yes. And it's a bit of a relief too that we can mix feed her so I don't have to be tied to a breastfeeding and then tied to a pump. Like the breastfeeding, I love breastfeeding. I wasn't the biggest fan at the start, but now I'm actually quite enjoying it. It was quite painful in that at the start, but just being able to be like, hey, yep, I'm not stopping breastfeeding and then pumping straight away, just to have that break as well now where she can just have a bottle of formula as well. Just such a relief. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. And the other thing I wanted to follow up on was because the birth, as you mentioned, was an experience for you, and your recovery, and this is your words, was a process. And it was slowly getting manageable now, but that was only 3 weeks postpartum. And you had a bit of pain, I believe, and discomfort. How's your physical recovery now at 4 months postpartum?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I still get a bit of pain and discomfort every once in a while. It's just when I've done too much in a day. So if I've been very active all day, but I'm told that's going to be an ongoing thing. Like it's just going to be managed with time. In that, I did see a pelvic floor physio as well. So got assessed there after 3 visits. My pelvic floor, she said there wasn't huge issues. There was just a bit of resistance in the holds. So there wasn't as much strength there. But we've been able to rebuild that back up over a fair few weeks, which is good. So that one's going well. It's just, when I do too much or if I do too many lots of pelvic floor lifts, like too often during the day or too often during the week, that's when I can get to the end of the week and go, I'm really sore.
So when you say you're in pain, do you mean you're in pain in your pelvic floor area?
It's, kind of not like a bad pain. It's just like feels like you've just done a massive workout at the gym kind of pain. Yeah, so
right.
just the muscle.
Yeah.
It's a bit sore. We'll give it a rest.
Yeah. And did you have, and feel free not to answer, and we can edit this out, but did you have overactive pelvic floor?
No.
No? So a weak pelvic floor that you're building up with strength.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And was that perineal pain, pelvic pain related to where the stitches were or
Yeah,
anything?
so I get a bit of pain near where the stitches are. So I've been doing a bit of a massage on that scar. So that's definitely helped. And the benefit of using lube as well, basically before exercise or going for walks, just introducing that as well, just to help with the discomfort at the start. That helped as well, which was a recommendation from my physio as well. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. It's worth probably checking in with her on a fairly regular basis if you're still getting that pain, because that's not something I would ever want one of my patients to put up with. And, you know, it's something to not just think, oh, I've improved now and I'll just put up with this pain and hope it will get better. Like, my recommendation would be, as a physio, you know, to not accept that as your new normal, and there is something that, you know, that will continue to improve, and it might need a bit more support, or maybe not, but yeah, to get that review. What about your general, like, what are you doing now? Walk-wise, exercise-wise, where are you at?
So was doing a lot of walks like every day. At the moment, the weather's just wild. So we're not getting out and about as much as we would like to, because I don't want to take her out too much in the wet. So it does make it a bit hard. But yeah, we've definitely been going for walks nearly every day when we can, when it's not crazy, windy, rainy weather. And basically, I've been doing a program with my physio just to strengthen up my core strength. She said there wasn't too much separation or anything in my stomach muscles, but she just wanted me to work on my core. So had a bit of a program with her. So that's where I've found the FitNest Mama as well. Just some of the core workouts, just been really, really beneficial as well.
You're still doing them, are you?
Trying to. I'm trying to do a bit of everything, but yeah, it's finding time sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just so, you know, plugging into those small, short little
Yes.
sessions can really make a
That's it.
difference. And then the last question. Well, sort of, I guess you've now sort of been through, would you agree you're through the massive hurdle and it's all settling down and you're settling into motherhood?
Yes, definitely.
Or do you still feel it's a very rocky road ahead?
No, definitely settling in. We're still having days where, like yesterday, for example, I spent the whole day doing absolutely nothing because all my baby wanted was to be held. So I spent the whole time just sitting around holding Kira, cuddling her. And it was just one of those days where she just wanted to be held. But that's the days I find a bit harder. My husband gets home and I go, I just need time, like space. Just 5 minutes on my own if I could. So that's probably the biggest thing. Otherwise, yeah, settled into it quite well. Body's recovered quite well. So I'm not, guess, not experiencing as much as what I was at the start. So, yeah.
And I'm going to ask another question, Kristen, and again, feel free. We can edit this out if you want. But mental health wise, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I've had days where basically I've suffered from anxiety in the past. So I've had days where they've just been like a massive anxiety dump. I am now seeing there's an amazing counselling service down here that I am seeing. So I do go see them once a fortnight just to chat and just to help with my anxiety as well. That's just been something I've had all my life. So it's just heightened since childbirth, I think. But yeah, just been working on that. But I'm doing pretty well. It's just, yeah, I have the occasional days where it's just like a full anxiety load. And yeah, especially if I'm sitting around all day just holding her as well when she has her days, that's when I find them a bit harder. So when hubby's home, it's like, hey, I've just got to remember to go, I need to check out as well.
Yeah. Sounds like you got some good supports around you.
Yeah, definitely.
Has your mother's group kicked in?
Yes. So we've just finished our 6-week program with the mother's group, but my mother's group, we've been doing every Friday coffee. So the girls have said we're going to keep that going. We're actually planning a Christmas party as well for next weekend. So like just a barbecue with all the parents, but so the hubbies can come as well. And yeah, so it's going to be nice.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, let's wrap it up. For now that you're a well-seasoned mother of a 4-month-old bubs, do you have any advice, words of wisdom for someone who might be pregnant listening to this, who's, pregnant with their first?
Definitely take all the support you can get. So there's lots of support out there. Look into it. Definitely don't be afraid to go, hey, I need some mental health support, or hey, I need some help from a physio. I'm not coping pelvic floor wise, or just anything like that. Just don't be afraid to ask for help. Even friends, they'll come over, they'll hold the baby if you need as well. So it's just being able to ask for that help and support, and just know that things do get better. So you might be experiencing something at the start post-birth. Things do get better, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. That's a perfect way to end it. Kristen, thank you so much for sharing your story. Not once, twice. Well, in 2 stages. I really do appreciate the time as a busy new mum. So thank you so much. And it's been so lovely being able to, I guess, witness your evolution from pregnancy to early birth, postpartum to now 4 months. So thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast, brought to you by FitNest Mama, your app for home-based, physio-led pregnancy and postnatal workouts. If you found this episode helpful, please tap follow, leave a quick review and share it to your stories. Tag at kathbequee.physio. I'd love to connect and cheer you on. And don't forget to check out the free trial at fitnessmama.com/free to start feeling confident, strong and supported today. Until next time, remember, a strong body, a confident birth and empowered recovery is something you deserve. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for individual medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. Please consult your healthcare provider for your personalised guidance.